718, Talk 107.3 FM, WBRP. Hour 2 of Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. I'm completely shifting gears here. Got to get away from the LSU stuff for just a minute. And want to talk about something that's been going on in Baton Rouge for actually a lot longer than I had any idea of, and that is Moxey. What is Moxey? What is Partners One? I've got the CEO sitting right next to me. Charlie Davis, welcome to Talk 107.3. How are you, man?
I'm awesome, Brian. Thanks for having us this morning.
Glad to have you on here. Glad to talk about this program. Glad to talk about what you guys have going on, because you're growing. I had no idea you've been around for 20 years, but feels like an overnight success. I'm sure it doesn't feel like that from your end, but from the outside looking in, y'all are making some tremendous strides. But before we get to the strides,
Sure, yeah.
For those that don't know what Moxey is, let's talk about it. What got this started, and how can just everyday folks use it?
Absolutely. So you're perfectly right. There's an old joke in the startup community about a 10-year overnight success.
Yes.
And so Partners One is the flagship community of Moxey here in Baton Rouge, and it's 20 years old, and it really flies under the radar. So what happened about 20 years ago is a small group of guys got together and created a barter network for the owners, by the owners, and it has since grown sort of exponentially. And recently, I got involved as an investor. We recruited lots of new businesses, and we're starting to scale this idea that was birthed here in Baton Rouge with Partners One across the country. So as of today, right now, over 1,000 businesses in the greater Baton Rouge area accept Moxey dollars.
Yeah.
So as you were saying earlier, it's painters and it's plumbers, but it's also plastic surgeons and lawyers and doctors. Some of the best restaurants in town take Moxey dollars, and we want using your Moxey to feel like an incredible experience, like you're using a high-end credit card. That's the experience we're trying to replicate.
How does it work?
So every business has excess capacity, right? We all have time that can't be filled, and most companies have two problems. They need new customers and better access to capital, especially during times like the pandemic or when things are tough.
Yeah.
And so Moxey solves those two problems. We help companies get new customers, and we give them access to capital. We do that by taking their excess capacity or their expiring inventory. And that's just a fancy way for saying some things, if you don't sell, they go away forever, right?
Yeah.
Tonight, if a hotel room goes empty, you can never go back in time unless you have a time machine,
Right.
and sell that room again.
Right.
Same thing is true for a table today at lunchtime. If it doesn't get filled at a restaurant, you can never go back in time. And so businesses are constantly hiring sales reps and doing other things to recruit new customers. And Moxey's a tool that really should be in everybody's toolbox. It's a simple idea based upon the traditional concept of barter, so that businesses can sell their excess capacity to other people. And we take that platform and then we scale it. As you know, businesses now pay their employees in Moxey dollars, give them bonuses or raises. Sometimes they give them gift cards. And as the network gets larger and larger, it becomes exponentially more valuable. Every time a new business joins the network, everybody benefits.
How do you manage the network and keep everything on a 1-to-1 ratio? Because I know, we use it here at Guarantee. I love it, by the way. I love having the gift card on a regular basis. But how do you manage that to where, let's say, an electrician and an advertising outlet, or an electrician in a restaurant or a hotel, they're all putting in with the same dollar value to make sure they're getting out barter-wise the same dollar value? Yeah,
so two ways. One, barter explodes sort of on every 40 to 45 years in this country.
Yeah.
During the Great Depression in the early 30s, it exploded on a massive basis. And then in the mid 70s, again, when interest rates got high, it exploded for the second time. And now we're probably 6 months or a few years away from the third wave of barter. And so part of this concept is it can't be stopped. People are constantly trading with each other. It just happens 24/7. Fortune 500 companies do it. Mom and pop companies do it. What we do is we make it easier and a better experience for everybody. So that's part of the equation. The other part is we've developed a really cool monetary protocol called proof of value. And so, we're not a cryptocurrency, but Bitcoin's obviously built on a concept called proof of work. And so Moxey's built on a monetary protocol called proof of value. And it's a system we developed internally to let us know exactly every penny in the network, how much it's worth. And so we use those rather sophisticated systems in the back end to ensure that consumers on the front end are always spending Moxey dollars with value, and that it's always linked to the US dollar at a 1-to-1 ratio, which makes it simple, right? When you go to your favorite restaurant or a dentist, you don't want to pay a different price. You want to know that whether you pay cash or Visa or Moxey, that you're always paying the same price.
From a business owner's perspective, though, this isn't a way to skirt around having revenue, right? This isn't a way to move things off the books.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to be clear about that, because when you know, most of the time when someone mentions barter, it's like, well, if I'm doing it this way, I don't have to report it, sort of thing. This is not that at all.
It's very different. So you can do, if you want, under the table barter. Obviously, we don't recommend it.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah,
No.
that happens all the time, but it's not scalable. Right? You may think you're getting away with something, but you can't keep track of it. You can't scale it. And so the government, 35 years ago recognized that companies want to barter with each other. And so they have a rather robust regulatory environment that we follow, including every member in our network gets a 1099-B at the end of the year.
Really?
And so you have to report your income in Moxey, but you also get to report your expenses. And so all the government asks is that you treat your Moxey dollars or your barter dollars the exact same way you treat your U.S. dollars, and it keeps it parity. It keeps a purchasing parity, makes it fair for everybody.
One of the things I've liked about using it is, and this is so off the beaten path, but it's one of those ones where if you know, you know, like those who know how to utilize it can make the most of it. And it's if I've got a Moxey gift card, if I've got any kind of Moxey dollars, I can spend those without affecting my bank account at all. It's kind of this cool little, and the response from others within the network is equally great, because they know when they see Moxey dollars coming in, they're earning back on the back end. So it's fun. The trade-off is it's cool.
It's like being in a really cool club, right? You have, when you pull your Visa card out, no one comments, but you give your Moxey card to someone, they know you're part of the network.
Right.
Now, it's a big network. We've now helped local businesses sell over $175 million worth of local goods and services.
Wow.
So there's a lot of money, a lot of products moving through our network, and we're really proud to be able to add that back into the local economy.
Very cool stuff. Now, y'all have some news, some big news coming out. In fact, the headline reads, newly launched Moxey equity campaign exceeds $415,000 today, ranked top 20 nationally in the WeFunder platform. Is this something that y'all have been striving for? How hard is this to attain?
Yeah, so like you said, we're a 20-year overnight success. We have been working 24/7 for the last few months, specifically on this campaign, but really for the last 4 years, reorganizing the structure of our network just to get to this point. And so about 3 weeks ago, we launched what's called a crowdfunding campaign. So a little background. Several years ago, the SEC changed the laws. It used to be only the wealthy could invest in private businesses. Now, that sounds terrible in America, but it was well-intentioned. They were trying to protect people from making bad investments.
Yeah.
Right? But if you can't make a bad investment and you can only buy a lottery ticket, it's a little unfair, right? So, the average person could invest in Facebook before it went public.
Right.
Could invest in LinkedIn, could invest in Google. But the law got changed several years ago, and about 3 weeks ago, the law was even further improved. So anybody who goes to wefunder.com/Moxey, whether you're an accredited investor, meaning a wealthy person with more than $1 million in assets, or an unaccredited investor, anybody listening to this show right now could go on and invest as little as $100 and actually own a piece of Moxey, and so own a piece of our equity. And as we grow and scale and replicate what we have here in Baton Rouge, across the country and eventually around the world, we'll be taking a tiny percent, just like Visa or MasterCard does. Like, we earn a commission for all the money that moves to the network, for all the extra business that we bring those local business owners. So we're really proud. Our members themselves have helped us tremendously, and we've raised over $400,000 just in the first 3 weeks. And our goal is to get to $1 million by the end of the month.
That's pretty cool. That's, in fact, very cool. Let's talk about Moxey on a broader scale, on the overall effects of the economy, because you're in the top 20, which means there are others like you out there. Y'all are Louisiana based, though, which we're always going to take interest in right here. But when you look at a barter network like Moxey, and you mentioned cryptocurrency a little while ago, what does it mean for our overall economy to have a shift away from just traditional dollars to people finding new and inventive ways to keep themselves relevant and keep businesses growing?
As you know, I've been a huge fan of Bitcoin. I first tried to mine it about 8 years ago, and I'm still kicking myself for not trying harder.
Yeah.
If you step back and think about the U.S. dollar system, even just over the last 100 years, it's changed several times. So prior to 1913, we had a series of state-based banks until the Federal Reserve was started in 1913. But that only lasted till about the 30s when FDR made it illegal to hold gold, right? Then 1944 when Bretton Woods happened and the U.S. dollar became the reserve currency of the world. Then advance forward to 1971 and Nixon famously closes the gold window, and the dollar, for the first time ever, not even a foreign nation can redeem it from gold. And so we think that the U.S. dollar has been the same forever, and it hasn't been. It's changed multiple times. And so the idea of fractional reserve banking is probably, I don't know, a quarter of a millennial old, right? It's probably 200, 300 years old. And today, every nation in the world has some form of a central bank. So we're all in the same system. But this is a very unusual time. Most of the times, we've had monetary systems linked to some commodity like gold. And so Bitcoin, I think, is mostly a return to a historical concept of a sound money system that exists outside of a nation state. And so Moxey is just part of that constant innovation that happens in US dollars. We think eventually a Moxey dollar might serve as the payment layer for a network like Bitcoin, for example. And so the US dollar and all other currencies are really constantly evolving. It just doesn't get talked about a whole lot.
I find it intriguing because, yes, in my short lifetime, that's all I've known was the dollar, and starting to learn about Bitcoin a little bit, not enough, just like you, not enough. I find the expansion of the overall economy, the growth of it, and when you enter something like this, a bartering network that makes it so much more on the books and tangible, so much more, this is what my actual growth is, my actual use of it is. It just, the potential outcomes just are limitless. So where can folks go if they want to learn more about Moxey?
The best place, so Moxey is money with an X factor, which means we spell it MOXEY. And so you can go to moxeyusa.com for more information. But you can also go to wefunder.com/Moxey, which will have all the information about our current raise. And it'll be live for about 3 more weeks. You have about 3 weeks to invest in the company.
Cool. Very cool stuff. He is Charlie Davis. He is the CEO of Moxey. And check it out. See what businesses in Baton Rouge are using it. You'll be surprised. The list it's lengthy.
It's about 1,000 businesses in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, so it's worth taking advantage of. It's worth checking out. Charlie, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me. You got it.
Greatly appreciate it.